Hello, everyone. Welcome to our weekly update of what is happening from Dog Podcast Network. I'm James Jacobson in Maui, Hawaii.
And I'm Claire Mansell in a wet, windy London, England. But the weather's going to be better tomorrow.
Well, we do live very far apart. The weather is radically different, but at least we have the common theme of loving dogs and helping to communicate all the great things that dogs add to our lives to you who are watching this now by telling you what is happening at Dog Podcast Network. But before we get into that, we have a breaking news event. You have an update, Claire?
I do. I saw some really good news this week, and I like sharing good news because the world's a bit bleak at the moment, but I have some really positive dog news. If our listener remembers, we did an episode, was it months ago? Or it must be months rather than weeks ago, about the dogs of Ukraine and how people were trying to help the dogs get out of Ukraine, be reunited with their owners, or be fostered, or find new homes. And what happened was, because people were, with the best of intentions, perhaps being a bit fast and loose with paperwork, the UK put a temporary ban on dogs coming from that part of Europe, and they weren't allowed to bring them into the UK. That ban has now lifted. So this is great news. It lifted last Saturday. So that temporary ban on dogs from Romania and Belarus and Poland and Ukraine has now been lifted, and that means that charities and rescue operations can now go into Ukraine and help some of those dogs. So that's great.
That is awesome. Anything that we can do to help people in Ukraine and the dogs, we should do. And I'm glad they were doing. Obviously, it was all based on a concern, a legitimate concern about rabies.
Yeah.
But sometimes there's a greater good, and I'm sure that they will be very careful about the dogs that do get admitted, but they just won't have one of these like draconian, nothing.
And they've kind of tightened up the rules a bit, but most of the rescue operations have said, yeah, we're completely fine with that. We understand why they've tightened everything up. So everybody's happy, which is great. Now, another kind of positive, happy thing, because we're talking about, us doing these great things for dogs. Why do dogs do great things for us? Why? Why do they do great things for us when sometimes the people who have dogs are not great? Well, we've got a whole episode of that this week, Dog Edition, why dogs are so loyal. And spoiler here, it's not all about food. I can tell you that much, because I think sometimes as an owner, or,
just give them a treat. But that's not why they are loyal to us.
It's much more complicated. So we delve into that, and there's some really interesting stuff. It's one of those things where you will find yourself stopping and talking to fellow dog owners and going, do you know why they're so loyal? Because I was listening to this thing recently. Please do that, because that helps us grow.
Yes. So that's on Dog Edition. You can find Dog Edition at dogedition.com, or any of the shows that we're about to talk about, including that one, you can find on our main website at dogpodcastnetwork.com.
I've got a bone to pick with you, James Jacobson. This morning, when see what I did there. This morning, when it was raining, I've mentioned it was raining quite a lot. I was on my treadmill. I was in tears on the treadmill this morning because I was listening to The Long Leash, and this week, I mean, it was kind of happy, sad tears, because this week it's all about Valerie Reed, who runs a place to call home for senior dogs, which is Whispering Willows, and it's this lovely specialist rescue in Missouri for senior dogs. And tell us a little bit about that, and then I'll tell you why I was crying.
Well, I mean, it's an extraordinary episode. She is one of these incredibly compassionate people. And, what happens when your elderly neighbor dies and can't take care of their dog? They're old dogs. Where do they all go? Well, if they're in the heartland of America in Missouri, they can go to this incredible place. It's called Whispering Willows. It is an extraordinary place. She has such compassion. The dogs live truly their best lives ever. I think we need to see more of this around the world. It's an extraordinary thing. So if you ever thought about what happens to my dogs when I die or something, this is something that you should listen to. And I guess it'll make you cry. Why did it make you cry?
Well, it was because when they were describing, and that's also, it's sort of happy, sad tears, because when they were describing the send-off that they give some of the senior dogs, where she does it usually in her house with all the dogs around. And just to say, I have my daughter at home with my family around, and I think that, she came into the world in that way, and I think we should all leave the world in that way if we can. That's the ideal world way to go, isn't it? In our own home, surrounded by people you love. And she's doing that for these dogs. And so, yeah, even talking about it makes me want to tear up a bit, because it's just beautiful. It really is beautiful. And some humans don't get that kind of exit from the world. And the fact that she provides it for dogs is amazing. So listen, don't the fact that I'm nearly crying a second time, don't let that put you off listening, because it's lovely.
We'll call them tears of joy. Yeah, it is really, it's heartfelt, and it's an example of the type of programming we do at Dog Podcast Network. You can find that show at its dedicated website, longleashshow.com, or at shows.dogpodcastnetwork.com.
And we are, of course, talking about senior dogs here, and lots of senior dogs do sadly get cancer. So Dog Cancer Answers this week is all about getting a second opinion when your dog is diagnosed with cancer, and how you can go to a specialist and find out a little bit more about their particular type of cancer and the different treatment routes, because there are many, of course. Now we have some fantastic facilities for our dogs.
Yes, and sometimes getting a second opinion feels awkward. You're like, I don't know when to do that. I don't want to really create this weird relationship with my veterinarian or my veterinariancologist or whatever. How do you do it? Well, it's actually surprising that most good veterinarians will welcome it. And we talk about how to do it and why you want to do it, because the more information you have, the better you'll be able to help your dog's cancer if you're dealing with that. That's at dogcanceranswers.com.
Fantastic. So what's new in the world of you at this week? What's happening? There's no drilling going on in the background in Hawaii.
Yes, we are they are still building that hotel on the volcanic rock. They are drilling and grinding, and it reverberates not only in here but also on our internet connection. So hopefully that's
I'm
pretty
not
solid.
Laughing.
Oh, no. It's very scary. It's like, why does the ping rate on our internet go? Well, it's because it's vibrating. It's very weird.
Yeah. You had a birthday this week, though. You had a birthday.
I did. Thank you. Yes, I did have a birthday. Well, thank you. Yes. I guess I have to thank my parents for that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was nothing to do with it.
You had nothing. You were not there. Yes, I had a wonderful birthday celebration. It was nice to do another year around the sun. And it also gives you a time to be introspective of all, contemplative of all the things that are happening in the world. And it is a perfect opportunity to say, the elections in the United States are coming up, I don't know, next Tuesday. And I think it's really important that people get out there and vote. And I know I run across people who say, it doesn't really matter who I vote for. It's all rigged, or it doesn't really matter. My one little vote isn't going to matter. My state always goes there. It does matter. And local elections, whether you're voting for your senator or congressman or governor, are important, but also the local elections, the people who sit on the city council, the people who are, all the people on the ballot. Some states have, you can vote for the judges, you can vote for the Secretary of State, and they make decisions, as they did very importantly in the last contested election in the United States. You want to get involved and know about what is happening. And this ties in. What does this have to do with dogs? Well, we have this initiative. It's called Wag the Vote, because we think that democracy is just better when you go out and vote, because dogs would do it if they could, because it's a little way to give back.
And also what you said a while ago about how people will do things for their dogs that they won't do for themselves. And so I often think about that. It's about making it a better world, whatever your interpretation of a better world is. But going back to that thing you were saying about people think their votes don't count, there's a very famous cartoon that does the rounds every now and again of a whole crowd of people all standing there with one speech bubble above them saying, my one vote doesn't count. And, it's a whole crowd of people. And it's, get out there, particularly if you're young.
Yes.
Because they're often the people who don't vote. And you are the future.
You are the future. If you care about what is happening in our government, if you want your voice to be heard, it is. I recently heard a bunch of Gen Zs saying, "Oh, it was you Gen Xers should have fixed all the stuff before." Well, when we back then, yes, we were like 18, 20 years old. So we were not, we didn't necessarily fix the environment back then. And yeah, we should have if we knew about it. But as someone recently pointed out to me, the movie An Inconvenient Truth didn't come out until well after we were like, so there's a lot of stuff, but now and you can get involved, whether it's environment or anything. You make a difference, so get involved, do the right thing. And we're not saying what to do, just go out and vote and get other people to vote. And if you have a dog, there are people who will arrange for dog sitting for you. There are in certain places where you can actually bring your dogs to the polls. Don't let having a dog impede you. In fact, that should be an encouragement to do the right thing and get out there and vote, because people will do things for their dogs that they would never do for themselves.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, it'll all be sorted out one way or another. At least I hope it will be by next Thursday. Sometimes it does drag on a bit in your elections, doesn't it? But
we don't do it the way you do it in the United Kingdom. Yeah. It's not we like to make things torturously slow.
I was contemplating staying up to see the results, and then I realized quite how late I would have to stay up. So it was basically the next day. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. So, and we're going to be tracking that. We're going to be tracking this not only in this election here in next Tuesday in the United States. By the way, one thing that drives me nuts, and I've seen some people on some politicians doing this here in Hawaii. They're basically saying you have one day to mail in your ballot. And implicit in that is that if you don't do it, your vote doesn't count. If you have a mail-in ballot, you can bring it to the polling place. There are deposit boxes. There are lots of things to do. And there's a lot of people who don't necessarily, who want to discourage you from voting.
Yeah.
And whether it's, guns outside polling place, whatever, don't fall for any of that stuff. Election day is November 8th. Even if you have a ballot for mailing in and you miss the mail-in deadline, well, you can bring it, and you ought to bring it. So make sure you show up. There's still plenty of time to make sure that your voice is heard, but it won't be after November 8th. So you have until then to actually get in there and vote. So make sure you do. And more information on that, all the details, if you need to find out where you can vote in your area and how to get everything set up, you can find that on a dedicated webpage that we have, and you can find that at wagthevote.org. Wagthevote.org.
I'm trying to remember what that quote is from the Hunger Games about may the whatever ever be in your favor. Because that feels like may the be in your... I'm just looking what it is.
This is a profound way to end this line.
Yeah. May the odds ever be in your favor. That's what they say. Yeah. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is that comes down whichever way you want to go on the voting. It's, may the odds ever be in your favor.
Yes. Get out there and vote. We will be back next week for another Dog Podcast Network live. And in the meantime, please do check out some of our shows. You can find them all at the links I mentioned at dogpodcastnetwork.com.
Right. I'll see you next week.
I'm James Jacobson.
And I'm Claire Mansell.
Take care. Aloha.